guys. You can take a quick look at what I've gotten so far with the contrast paints I started last night. A lot of these models have a little bit of contrast on them somewhere, so I'm just going to show you that. This guy has a ton of contrast on him, but I'll get a little closer so you guys can see. But I did some of these things yesterday night. I was kind of up late, but you know, let's give you a good look at the Damon prints here. So this is done completely with contrast. And this is still a work in progress, obviously. This is one color, the green. This is a color, it's like a bone color or brown. This is a color, it's the yellow with some brown in it, and that's the gray. We'll have some areas bare because I still have to go over them. So this is the Plague Bearer Flesh or Plague Bearer Green or whatever it's called, I don't know. You know, and I just tried to mix some of the colors up, like there's some yellow with some brown around it. And there's yellow, Plague Bearer Green, and there's some bone in there too. The drum is gray with some bone or dunes. I can't remember the name of the paint. Again, it's still a work in progress, and I haven't dry brushed anything. I haven't actually highlighted anything. I mean, it does do some kind of highlighting. On this guy, it actually looks pretty decent. I don't like the consistency of the paint. I don't like how it flows. I don't like, you know, the nature of it. It's just really funky paint. It doesn't really, it's hard to control, you know. So if you're getting started and you're just learning, you're gonna definitely have to learn how to clean up after yourself with this paint, because it's just, you know, it's really hard to manage. So there you got some yellow and brown again, and the Plague Bearer Green, of course, and then I've got the bone color on the hood, and then the yellow on the bone, because I'm going to actually dry brush, you know, some bleach bone on there. And this I haven't done yet because I'm going to actually do some rust effects on that. And then the base is actually done with the gray, the dark gray, you know. So you guys can see. Now here I have a couple of Weeping Angels that I did specifically or exclusively with the gray. So you see it does leave, you know, it goes into the recesses, and it does leave a little bit of highlight and shadow, you know, but I'm still going to have to go back and actually dry brush some of the detail in, you know, or just to highlight it, maybe even, I don't know, I'm debating on whether or not I want to wash these with like null oil or something to give them a darker look, but I kind of like it. It's not terrible. I mean, yesterday when I painted it on, I was very frustrated because the paint runs so much, you know. You have to control where it goes. Like, as you can see, it pooled up down at the bottom, you know. So it you know, they say you lay it on heavy, one thick coat, and then there you go. But you know, this is the result. Hang on, sorry about that, guys. This is the result of one thick coat, you know. And you have to move it around. You've got to, you know. Now, mind you, this was actually primered with this is actually primered with the Gray Seer primer. You know, so this is the primer that's designed for this paint, but it doesn't hold on to it very well. Here we have, maybe I can get a little closer this way, give you guys, no, the light's not that good. Sorry for the camera movement, guys, I apologize. But here we have a Space Marine and an Eldar Guardian, and I went with the green, lightning green, I think it's called. Just to give, I wanted to do a Salamander's color scheme. It doesn't really go well over smooth panels, and I'm sure everybody already knows that. It does leave some highlights, as you can see on the edge of the greaves there. It does leave some, little bit of highlighting. But to me, this is like a wash. This is just like a jelly consistent wash. It's not. See, I gotta get that spot in there too. And I'm not done with these guys, not by a long shot, but, you know, still going. That guy did not go together well. See that? That was an easy fit. I mean, there's the Guardian. The Guardian, it's kind of nice because you can see all the recesses are shaded in, you know. I didn't do that. That's just the way it went. Some of it bled. Like, see that leg there? That was actually covered yesterday night before I went to bed. So I don't understand why it ran away. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's so weird. But that's the lightning green. And then we have the Elandri yellow, I think it's called. We'll do the Space Marine first. And of course I was going with an Imperial Fist color scheme, you know. And it does have some of the areas caught recess shading, you know, as you can see in there. With some, you know, not so much, you know. So it looks like I may have to like dry brush a color over this, you know, just to get. Now I purposefully did. I actually shaded the inside of that shoulder pad on purpose. You know what I mean? I actually went over it again with the yellow and shaded it, you know, just to give it that extra shade, just to see the difference between that and then like right there where I just painted it, just one thick coat. See, and I gotta actually touch up. There's a lot of touching up to do. A lot of touching up. I still gotta do the leather for the I don't know if it's the way the lines are on the Guardians, but this guy lended himself a little better to the recess shading. But I gotta clean it up. There's a lot of cleanup because these brushes, I mean, well, these paints, they're just kind of all over the place. You see, that looks good there. That definitely looks cool. But then, you know, in the front, it's very, like the chest area, you know, it's very And mainly, I just want to show you guys real quick the two brushes that I used. These are the two brushes I used. I didn't use any fine detail brushes or anything like that. Just use the two basic detail brush and a standard base coat brush from Games Workshop, the old school brushes. And we got the Blood Angels red. Excuse me. So this just coated. Look at that. Why did that come off? I don't understand that. This did not shade, in my opinion. I don't know if the camera's picking it up. I mean, it did put some, but I think that's because that's where it pooled, you know, a little bit. So like you can see where it pools, or where it's a little thicker, it gets a little darker. But otherwise, it did not do a good job at like recess shading or highlighting. Like this is just, to me, this is just like a straight up base coated model. It looks a little better in person than on camera, but not by much. Yeah, see, even the Eldar model, there's no shading in there. It's just straight up red. Like, and that, I didn't do anything special. I just took it right out of the pot with the brush, right onto the model. No washing down, no rinsing. I haven't even used the medium yet because I don't want to use the medium. I got other models I'm going to use the medium on just to test that too. But thus far, the red is pretty much like straight up just red. Now this model, I actually went over with the Plague Bearer Flesh. Like it was already primered Death Guard green. This was pre-primered Death Guard green, so none of the contrast primer. But I actually painted over the armor because you can see the difference between the gun, his bolt gun, and his armor. They're different colors. So I painted over the armor with Death Guard green just to see what would happen, you know, what color variations I would get. Plus it's Death Guard, it's not going to hurt it, it's going to give it, you know, a little color and character. But you can see where it kind of like, almost, it actually just looked lighter. It doesn't, I don't know. I don't know if these colors are, you see the foot there, you know, and you can see the gun again against the armor. I just don't know. I did the Sith as well, because I wanted to kind of give it a mucusy look, you know, more so than a rusty look. But that's that. I also did this Imperial Guard. You can see I did the same thing. He was primered Death Guard green, and then I painted him with the contrast flesh, the plague bearer flesh over his uniform, because I wanted to give it a different type of green on the uniform. I mean, mind you, these are still works in progress, but I don't know. I'm not feeling these paints yet. Now this guy was primered Death Guard green. You can see that, and the base was actually painted with the gray. It doesn't really cover very well, and I'll show you that on some other models. Now, it does look good on certain things, but on certain things it just did not do very well. For example, this is one of those Banshees. You can see I did the base and the stone and everything like that, and that looks great. On the stone, it looks awesome. It definitely did what it was supposed to do. It shaded, it left a highlight. I can actually dry brush it a little more if I want to, but I don't know if I will. But the rim of the base, you can see if it's a smooth surface, it's really hard to get a nice consistent color. You know, and I you know, that's where, you know, my complaint is for like this paint line being marketed towards, you know, new players, or, you know, new painters. This is not a new painter's paint line. This is for probably more experienced painters, people who can, you know, actually manipulate paint for their needs. Like, again, this base is terrible. It's you see, it's all, and I moved the paint around as much as I could. I even took some off just because, you know, I had a little bit excess on the brush. On the machinery, it looks fantastic. You know, it looks like it's supposed to look, you know. But on the smooth surfaces where it's flat and there's no detail, it does not look right. It just doesn't come out right. And this is on gray here, so this is that second to the darkest color. Let's see if I can get something else here for you guys. And you can see the stonework, masonry, it looks great. You know, a little bit of highlighting with some lighter color grays, or even a wash may even make it look better. I don't know, but then I'm going to definitely have to repaint this base trim, because you see what it, you know, how it leaves it. So, like I said, I mean, it's a great tool to add to your collection of tools, but I don't think that this is the end-all, be-all of paints. That I don't think that this is in any way, shape, or form do I recommend. I do not recommend this for beginner painters. None of my friends, any of you guys, you know me, man. I'm going to be straight up with you guys. Any of my buddies that are getting into 40K or Warhammer or whatever, do not buy the hype. Do not go for the hype. Okay, this stuff is not for you. This stuff will, you can get it if you really want to. If you think it's going to make your job easier and you don't want to really get into painting and stuff, that's great. Go ahead and knock yourself out, but I guarantee you're not going to get the results you're thinking you're going to get. You know, this is definitely for more experienced painters, more advanced painters. You know, this was just one coat. I coated the whole thing with the gray. So in essence, I could say that it's nearly done. To me, it's nowhere near done. In my standards, it's not done at all, but you could say, okay, it's painted. You can see the details, you can see the recesses, you can see the pipelines, you know, all the little pipes and stuff. You can see all that. It's all picked out. Cool, done. You know, is that a tabletop worthy army? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. You know what I'm saying? Like that not to me. You know, if somebody came to me with that, I'd be like, you gonna finish these guys, or you're just gonna not, you know? And, you know, people may disagree with me. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I've been painting for a long time. It doesn't make me a master painter, but I at least understand the concepts of painting and the process of it. And this stuff is great. Like I said, for advanced painters, this is going to be a great tool. And you see that on the internet. You can go to YouTube right now and look at all those painters that are showing off this paint and telling you how good it is. And, you know, woo, woo, woo. But these guys are fucking competition painters. They've been painting competition models for a while now, you know. So, I don't know. It's, for me, saying this is great for beginners, I don't think so. Now, this was primered black, dusted with white, okay, on top to give it some highlight, as you can see. And then I painted the whole model with the gray. Okay, the whole thing has been repainted with the contrast gray. This actually looks really cool. You know, I could say this is done. You know, this is just for D&D. This is just a stand-in prop, you know, for an adventure or whatever. Or a MacGuffin or, you know, an objective, whatever. I'm going to fill that pool, though, with some liquid and resin and stuff and make it look really cool. But to me, this could be done. You know, maybe some highlighting right there on the detail work, because that's some really cool detail you don't want to lose. But it does show. You know, the paint did do what it was supposed to do. Like I said, though, I pre-shaded that model, so it's difficult to say that was just the paint. And I still have all this other stuff to paint, so we'll see how fast I can get through this. But anyway, you know, sit tight, guys. Like I said, and I'm gonna keep going through with this contrast paint, and I'm gonna keep working with it and see what my results are. And I'll let you guys know, man. I mean, like I said, so far, you know, what I've done, I do not recommend this for new players at all. Not at all. Not even close. This is for moderate to advanced painters. You know, this is for someone who already knows how to manipulate paint, what shades work with what colors work as shades, what colors don't work as shades, what colors work better for highlights. This is not for beginners. Because if I bought all that stuff as a beginner and started slapping paint on, I would be fucking pissed. My models would look mediocre at best, you know. Unless I'm naturally gifted, you know, some kind of freak of nature who's naturally gifted at painting, and just you pick up any paint and you know exactly what to do with it. That's great. You know, those people are awesome. But chances are a new player, no, they're not gonna know that a brown wash works great with yellow, or an orange wash works great. You know, they're not going to know that shit. You know, and these colors don't just solve the problem. They don't just make magic. Now, again, on this guy, he's a pock-marked, you know, scaly skin tone dude. Sure, uneven paint will look great on this guy. But these guys, gonna have to do some work to make these guys look good. So, like I said, pros and cons, but definitely at this point, I'm not done with this paint yet. I'm still testing. I'm still working on it. But at this point, I'm going to say I would not recommend this for beginners. All right, guys, stay tuned. All right, guys, I just wanted to show you some quick progress. It's been a couple hours today painting. Well, a lot of hours, actually. This is actually the contrast base coat, Elandry yellow or some shit like that, with some very light brown wash, one of the bone colors, another contrast color. That's the contrast gray on the bolt gun, the bone color on the ribbon, the purple color on the seal, the leather color on the pouches, things like that. So this is just, you know, still in progress here. I used the gray primered marine to actually do a blue. Same thing, the gray, the contrast gray, contrast leather, contrast bone, contrast pink. Here we got the blood angel. Still the same. We did the gray, did the ribbon. Got to do some details. I did the leather, pouches. This one I put a little bit more paint on. This is one of the salamanders. A little bit more complete, where it's got the black, the gray on the bolter, but also the black contrast as well. The black contrast on the shoulder pauldrons. You can see I got to fix that right there. The black on the vent exhausts, because it's, you know, it's a salamander, and these are the colors. I even put the black inside the ribbon there. I did the leather pouch, the ribbon, and the back of the vents there too. One of the Eldar. Still got to fix up the face. It's got the black on the face. I actually watered down the black just a little bit because the water really doesn't help it much, but this is the bone color on the rifle. I can't remember what these are called. I know the Dark Eldar are like splinter rifles, but there's something else for the Eldar. But this is also dry brushed with one of the yellows. Lightly dry brushed with Uriel yellow. Just a little bit of the highlight. And I did the helmet on this guy with, you know, I did the contrast yellow first, and it was kind of dark, so I did the Uriel yellow over it just to kind of give it a little bit brighter yellow. Did the bone on the rifle again, in the blue. No other dry brushing or anything on this model. This guy's got white, skull white on the helmet over the contrast gray sear. Then there's the bone for the weapon, and then just the red. There really is not a lot of, there's not a lot of, I haven't put any shading or anything in there. And this is the lightning green with a white helmet and a little bit of black, like watered down gray actually, in the face mask, the bone color for the weapon. And I got to fix up some, you see that there, it's got to get fixed up. There's a lot of cleaning up on this. This one actually shows the contrast doing its thing the best, I think. Like the green actually really reflects what the contrast is supposed to do. I got to fix that white too, that little splotch there. But yeah, I did a blue TARDIS. All I've done was the blue. I retouched up the gray because I got blue over the gray. And I'm going to do some black and some other details in there as well. But yeah, that's the TARDIS. Here's a golem from Reaper Mini. Well, I figure like a flesh golem. So this is like the, I can't remember. It's a purple, but it's like a really light purple for contrast paint with the leather contrast paint over the pants. And that did a pretty good job. That actually came out pretty nice. And that was just like 2 layers of the leather. And this was like a layer and a half of the pink. So I did have to layer them up a bit just to get a solid color out of them. Some of them anyway, not all of them. And this guy was actually a green miniature. He was actually green primered the gray. And I left some of the green in there, as you can see. That's some of the clear green that it was. But there's the gray contrast on the tombstone, the bone color, the bone contrast on the skull, the leather contrast on the ground with a little bit of bleach bone dry brush, and this has a little bit of skull white dry brush over the top. Just to give it a bit of some lighting from the top, you know what I mean? And I kind of wanted that ethereal feel for it. Here is the fountain, dry brushed with some gray, just light gray, and then a very, very fine edge highlight of white. And then I just poured in some contrast colors in there, the green, lightning green, and then the blue, just to give it a little bit of color. The ground is the snakebite leather contrast, or that leather contrast with bleach bone dry brushed over it. I'm still going to paint the edges, because the trim of the base, because you can see it's very uneven. Oops. Interesting. Here we have one of the weeping angels. It's pretty cool. This is actually the gray contrast over the gray sear paint, with the leather on the ground, dry brushed with bone a little bit, and then I washed the whole model with null oil because I felt like it wasn't not that it was dark enough, but it just didn't go into every recess like I figured it would. But now it just looks a lot more stone because it kind of dried out some of that. Some of the contrasts dry, shiny. So the null oil kind of dulled it up a little bit, which is nice. It kind of gave it that stone look, which is what I wanted. Nothing else on here. No other dry brush, no nothing, which is kind of cool. It gives it that stone look. You know, I still got to do the trim of the base. So here's the Herald of Nergal. Now this guy's had a lot of contrast put on him, yellow, leather colors. I did a lot of leather underneath the metal. And then I dabbed like a blazing orange here, and I patched in some blazing orange, and then I dry brushed lead belcher over the top of that, just to give it an old rusted metal look, because you know it's Nergal. The hood is the bone colored contrast with a little dry brush of bleach bone, or not bleach bone, Xandri dust, sorry, and the horn is actually the yellow mixed with the bone color contrast, and then lightly dry brushed with Xandri dust. I still have to do the Nergling and the little details like the pus marks and stuff like that. There's still a lot of pock marks I want to get, you know. I don't want to do all of them because it kind of, I feel like when you do every little pock mark and detail, it kind of takes away from the model. It makes it too busy. So this guy has a lot. This has 3 layers of contrast plague bearer flesh all over it. And the only reason I did it was because I noticed when you turn the model, there was like, oh, there's a lot of white, you know what I mean? There's spots where it just didn't go in. The teeth were yellow, the contrast yellow, so was all the bone, all the claws, all the toenails, all the things like that, that I actually used the bone as kind of like a thin, I watered it down a little bit and used it like a wash, the bone colored contrast, into the yellow to give it that look. That's the bone colored yellow, or that's the bone colored wash there with a little bit of the leather contrast. Sorry, the bone colored contrast with leather contrast over it, dry brushed with Xandri dust only on the edges, as you can see. And I still have to do the rings and some of the pus marks and stuff like that. That's yellow in there. That's the pink, you know. And then the teeth were yellow, but I dry brushed them with bone just to give them that little bit of a polished look. I'm actually going to go over them with a little bit of yellow ink later. Did the same thing with the bones here. So the yellow contrast, the bone contrast, and then the dry brush of Xandri dust. And on the drum, I actually did it in gray initially, the dark gray contrast. Then I patched in some orange from the blazing orange, and then I dry brushed lightly lead belcher over the top of it, just to give it, you know, a little metal look. And there we have a bunch of contrast in there. That's all the plague bearer, the yellow, the leather, the bone, all the different colors. As you can see, I dry brushed some of the bones. I think I need to mute those down a little bit. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to give this guy a big wash of Agrax Earthshade, just to kind of give him to tie some of these tones in together, because when you dry brush it's just so much lighter than the actual color of the regular model. So I want to give it some more depth. So I'm going to wash it through with like Agrax Earthshade or something like that, maybe a water down. And I still have to do all the pus, you know, the maggots and stuff like that. But again, this is a model where so much is happening. I don't want to do too many of the details in great detail, because then it's going to be like, wow, it washes away the model. It basically takes away from the perception of the model. And I did the base with the gray contrast, and then I added some leather contrast and some green contrast. There's a bunch of different contrast patches in there because they act like washes. And then I dry brushed it all with a lighter gray. I did the primer, the Gracier primer. I used the pot to dry brush the gray, and I'm going to wash it one more time with some Agrax or something. But there you go. That's the progress so far. It's taking me a lot longer than I thought, but it's also because, oh, I also did all the Gene Stealer bases as well for my Space Hulk game. So here we've got the bone, the gray, and then I just dry brush lead belcher over the gray to give it kind of a metal look. I don't like the way the bone works on certain things. Like some of it looks cool, but then some of it just, I don't know, it just doesn't look right. Here's one of the more intricate Tyranid bases. There you go. So the Tyranid, I'm gonna go with this purple for the skin and the heads and the hands and the feet, and then I'm going to go with a really dark purple for the carapace and stuff like that. Kind of not so much the actual Space Hulk Gene Stealers, because they were like blue and purple. I'm going to go with a purple and purple, just kind of an homage to the old Space Hulk game, because I'm going to paint my Space Hulk Terminators, you know, legit Blood Angel Terminators. So we're still going to work on that. I'll keep you guys posted, but so far I think that the contrast paints are good for, you know, maybe someone like me and someone with a higher skill level than mine to really make use of their value. But again, I'm going to stick with my initial thought that this is not for beginner painters at all. Do not, if you're starting out, do not buy these paints at all. You can do much better with a set of Vallejos or a set of Army Painter or even a set of Games Workshop paints, but do not go with these contrast paints thinking that they are going to solve your army painting projects 1, 2, 3, because they are not. You are going to need to do cleanup, you are going to need to do damage control, and you're going to need to do a lot of it. You know, even if you're a decent, I mean, really good painters with really high-end brushes and stuff like that, they're going to do well, but you're not going to buy a $25, $30 brush to start off with. You're going to buy the cheap $10 brushes from Games Workshop, or the $5 bag of brushes from Michaels, you know, to save yourself some money, because you're going to be spending money on everything else. So trust me when I tell you, if you're new to this game, do not buy these contrast paints. The primers, sure. If you're going to go with those base colors, you know, the bone color or the gray color, sure, buy that stuff, you know, because it lends itself to what you're starting with your core colors. But do not buy this stuff if you are just starting out. All right, guys, we'll get back to you in a minute.